Grace class. We are on session 3 of our 1000 Gifts study. I have really pray that you all have been continuing your study. Those of you who have the books and the study guide, that you're reading along the chapters and you're doing the study guide. The study questions are very thought-provoking. They're very much questions that make us think about our own lives. They're not easy fill-in-the-blank questions. And sometimes we might shy away from harder questions where we have to actually reveal parts of ourselves. But I really pray that you are attempting to answer the questions honestly and giving it time to reading the book. We are doing chapters 6 and 7 this week. And it's how God takes the ugliness of life and turns it into something beautiful. A quote from the book by Anne. She says, "Pain is everywhere. And wherever the pain, there can be everywhere grace. And yes, Jesus, I'm struggling and I get turned around, but I think I know, at least in part, what I want. I whisper with the blind beggar, Lord, I want to see. I want to see more beauty, more of the glory of God, because that is what I'm made for, to give him more glory. I want to see God. Through Thanksgiving, I can see beauty. I can see the beauty around me. I can number the gifts and see what God has created and he has given. And through that, I can see God. I see God and I give thanks. I see God in these gifts that I continue to write down in my journal, and I see beauty. And the beauty is a reflection of the one who created it. And I can see God through Thanksgiving. I give my worship not to what is beautiful, but to the God that reveals himself in that beauty. Anne points out, ingratitude can cause us to see the ugly instead of the beauty, to see that instead of God. Numbers 21:5, and the people spoke against God and against Moses. Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and we loathe this worthless food. Anne says always ingratitude makes the poison curse. The remedy is in the retina. So we'll go on and read verses 8 and 9. And the Lord said to Moses, make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten, when he sees it, shall live. So Moses made a bronze serpent and set it on a pole, and if a serpent bit anyone, he looked at the bronze serpent and lived. How the Israelites looked determined if they would live. We're going to turn to John chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. So Jesus said we need to see and then believe. Anne quotes A.W. Tozer, faith is the gaze of the soul upon a saving God. Saving faith, but faith isn't a once and done thing. Faith is always seeing and looking for God in everything. As we see God in everything, how can we not give him thanks? Anne goes on to say, and if I can give thanks for the good things, the hard things, the absolute everything, I can enter the gates to glory, living in the presence and fullness of joy, and seeing shows the way. And we know happiness is fleeting. Last Sunday, many in our community experienced devastation of tornadoes and storms that swept through the Chattanooga and surrounding areas. And in a matter of minutes, lives were changed. As the sun rose on Monday morning and the extent of the devastation was seen, I'm sure the emotion of happiness was gone. But as believers in Jesus Christ, those who seek to see God could still have souls filled with joy. Joy isn't an emotion to come and go with circumstance, but joy comes from a heart filled with gratitude and one who wants to see God and live daily in his presence. In earlier chapters and also in chapter 6, Anne states again, thanksgiving always precedes the miracle. Perhaps we can't recount as Mary and Martha of the miracle of a beloved brother being raised from the dead, or tell the story of sitting with a multitude and being fed to satisfaction with just 2 fish and 5 loaves. But we can tell of the miracle of the resurrection. And we can, as believers in Jesus Christ, recount the miracle of being given new life. Maybe our Thanksgiving brings to mind the everyday miracles, our encounters with God, the provisions that He gives daily. Maybe our Thanksgiving brings to mind times when a situation seemed hopeless, but you gave thanks to God anyway, and as He had done before, God's glory showed through as the hopelessness gave way to joy, and a miracle, maybe small, was done on your behalf. But what about in the waiting for the miracle? What about the messy, the ugly, the hard? How do we keep our perspective? How do we keep our seeing Him and living fully? Do we often forget to give thanks? Our ingratitude beginning to show? Do we complain like the Israelites in the wilderness, forgetting the great things that God has done for us and is wanting to do again? As I continue to name the gifts, as I continue to write in my journal these 1,000 gifts, I don't see these upheavals of life as gifts, and I forget. I forget that nothing happens to me except by God's will. So whatever happens, the messy, the ugly, the hard, is all given from God and is a gift. And I must give thanks for the gift. And I can see grace and live joyfully. Sometimes to see the joy in the moment, to see God there, we have to dig. Like buried treasure, we have to go deep and to find it. He is always in the moments, and His presence is joy. Full, but I have to look for it. I have to dig deep sometimes. So I'm going to give you a challenge this week. Continue to name the gifts, but to name the hard and painful moments and really dig to see the beauty. Dig to find the treasure and see God in the hard and the ugly. Continue to practice the discipline of thanks. I pray that you all are getting something out of these studies and that God is speaking to you through them. I know there are many of us going through hard times, ugly times, that we may be going through times where it's hard to see the joy. So that's why right now I want to challenge you to really look for it in everything. See God in all circumstances, because He is there, but we just may have to, like a buried treasure, hunt and dig far for it.